everybody. I'm Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. The aim of this podcast is to raise awareness about blindness, visual impairment, and disability in general, in a happy and light-hearted way. For those of you that don't know, I am blind. I was born with a condition called bilateral anophthalmia. Try spelling that one. It basically means that when I was born, my eyes didn't develop properly, so I wear prosthetics instead. The goal of this podcast is to remove some of the stigma and stereotypes around disabilities, whilst also having fun at the same time. Each week, I will be interviewing people from all walks of life, including some with hidden or physical disabilities like mine, and getting to know a little bit more about them and the lives they lead.
In this episode, I am very excited to tell you that I will be talking to Gary Williamson, a blind photographer.
My name is Evie Roberts, and this is my podcast, Talking in the Dark. Welcome. Gary, how are you doing?
Yeah, good, thank you.
Amazing. Well, I think first of all, thank you very much for doing this, and thank you very much for coming on the podcast. It is such a pleasure to meet you. But secondly, what have you been up to recently?
Really busy. It's been a busy period, and I've been doing some work with Sony. And looking at Sony have got a talking camera, and I've been having a play about with that basically, and doing some amazing images with the camera basically. And yes, it's been going really well.
Oh, very exciting. That's really cool. I know obviously I heard about what you've been kind of doing with Sony, and I'm kind of very excited to touch on that later. But I guess things like that, having more accessibility when it comes to cameras and stuff. I mean, as a visually impaired photographer, that must be kind of, brilliant for you to have that kind of higher level of accessibility.
Yeah, fantastic. Being able to like chill and go through like settings easier and just relax a little bit more. Yeah, it's been really exciting. Been totally different. But anybody that's visually impaired anyway is used to voices, aren't they? They're used to being voice programs being part of their life. So it's been quite easy to pick up because of that. And then it's just getting hold of the camera and having a play with it as you would normally do, rather than going out with a purpose. I think it's them moments when we sit there and have a little bit of fun with something is when we find a bit more out about it.
Yeah, I love that. I think that's such a great way to, yeah. And I think that kind of, obviously, especially for you with cameras, but I think also any kind of new tech that you're getting used to, I think it can be very easy to, like, if you don't grasp something straight away, it can be very easy to get very frustrated with yourself. But it's all about having a play with it and getting used to it, and just not being like, I'm going to get this first time and, whatever, just actually giving yourself a bit of patience.
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know that you, like myself, are visually impaired. So first of all, could you tell me a little bit about your eye condition?
Yes, I've got Leber's hereditary optic neuropathy, which is shortened to Leon. And it's basically both of my optic nerves are damaged. So it's not an eyesight condition, an eyeball, if you will, condition, or a lens condition, which people get confused with. So it's glasses don't make any difference. It's an optic nerve condition, which means that the information going to the brain is distorted and damaged.
Right, okay. It's interesting what you said there about people kind of getting confused with that. And obviously, I think it's something I tend to talk about a lot on this podcast, I've noticed. But the idea that there is such a spectrum when it comes to blindness, and so many eye conditions that come under that, like, umbrella term, if you will. And I guess, would you say that's kind of a bit of a common misconception when it comes to your condition, that it's actually not to do with, say, the eye itself, it's to do with the optic nerve?
Yes, I think just because people think that at least you'll be able to put some glasses on or something
Mm,
like that, and people don't understand when I say, no, I've really good eyes, actually. They kind of go, well, I thought you couldn't see. And so then I have to explain that it's optic nerve damage, and then people are interested, well, how do you damage your optic nerve?
mm,
And it kind of opens up things. I don't usually see when I talk about my eyesight, I'm not the kind of person that will talk specifically around the medical side
mm.
uh, because that's not me. And
Yeah.
I used to do a lot of work around disability awareness for many years. And I would steer away because my issue about disability is how you're treated because of your impairment. So I've
Mm.
always steered away from the medical terminology around my eyesight because if that's what you want to talk about, you're seeing the wrong thing about me. You just want to talk about my condition to other people, then to me, you're just seeing me as that condition, really. And I want to be seen as a photographer who's blind, which is fine, or a blind photographer, whichever way. Uh, so yes, I do steer away from the medical side, but I have no issue when people come when I have to explain it sometimes.
I completely agree with that. I think it's so important when we talk about disability. I mean, like you said, not to see someone, not to put the disability first, like not to see someone as, oh, like basically just not to see someone as their condition and they are someone who is behind that. Yeah,
Yeah.
obviously your eye condition is a big part of your identity and there's not much that you can do about that, but they should be connected. They shouldn't, there shouldn't be the condition that kind of walks in front of you, so you see the condition before you see the actual person.
Exactly. I am more than happy and proud to say that I'm a disabled person. But I was explaining to a good friend recently, and I just said, and I was talking to him about the issue about disability, and I said, I'll always be impaired, but I don't always need to be disabled. And he didn't
Mm.
understand. And he said, what do you mean? I don't understand. And I said, well, I'll always have the eyesight condition. That's fine. I'll always have the impairment, but the disability is brought about by society. And this is again where the camera comes in. So having a camera that doesn't speak is a disabilitating factor. Having a camera that speaks removes the disability, not the impairment, but it removes that disability, the blocking factor, the bit that means I can't join in the same as everybody else.
Yes, exactly. I completely agree with that. Are you, I don't know if you're familiar with the social model of disability at all.
I was teaching that 35 years ago.
Right.
So
Okay.
yes, up and down the country, Russia. Yes, I think yes, I did. I was part of the youth service and a very proactive manager, and we used to go up and down the country teaching youth services around the social model of disability versus the medical model, basically. And so I did a lot of work, and I also worked for the county council in Lancashire, which I was instrumental in setting up the Disabled Workers Forum and getting that backed by Lancashire Cash to then support disabled people in the workplace. So yes, I do have a strong background in disability
Yeah.
issues.
I did wonder because I was like, obviously it's exactly what you just said, but obviously, yeah, you are very familiar with it. That's super interesting, kind of all the work you've done in raising awareness about disability as well, and obviously something you are very passionate about, which is brilliant.
Yes, extremely.
Definitely. Well, I'm kind of wondering, obviously, you are such a brilliant photographer, but to kind of flash back a little bit, how did your journey into photography actually come about?
When I was still sighted, I went to art college
Mm,
and I did photography as part of that. And it was a medium that I really enjoyed doing. It was like, I suppose in some respects, you could argue laziness because I'd be doing painting and I'd be doing drawing and charcoal and 3D things, and all them took a lot of effort.
mm.
Whereas you put a camera in my hand and it seemed to take zero effort. It was storytelling and it was fun effort. So I think I really got hooked into it there. Obviously, I'd done photography a little bit as everybody had done, but to pick up a camera and go, hold on, I press one click, the job's almost done. That's it. It's and you've took the photo and you've seen something. So I think that's where I got the initial excitement of storytelling within photography.
Yeah, absolutely. Storytelling is a word that kind of jumped out to me there, and I think that's a really cool way of describing it because I guess I guess that's what it is at the end of the day. Like photos are, they have stories behind them.
Yes, hopefully. Well, there's obviously a thing of beauty, and that's not a problem. A lot of photographers and lots of genres of photography, but mine is I try and at least either raise a question or wonder what that person's going, wonder what they're doing, or at least raise an emotion, some kind of feeling within the viewer. And that's storytelling. If that person feels, even if it's something where they feel a bit nervous for whatever reason, because of the picture you're doing, then you've got people to look at your image and your storytelling. And I think it's just the way I think it is. And it's twofold because I've started to explain a little bit more about my photography. There's also a storytelling behind with me as well, maybe me how I take the shots or me how I act. So, for example, the other day I was sat 15 foot away from somebody doing Tai Chi. Because of my eyesight, I didn't even know they were there. A person came up and introduced themselves who recognised me and said, "Are you photographing the guy with Tai Chi?" And I went, "Where is he?" And he went, "He's there right in front of you." And I went, "Oh, all right." So again, I can then put that on my Instagram and tell that story. I can tell the story about people meeting me, about sharing my eyesight. Then I connect with that person. And even somebody 15 foot away, I have no idea they stood there. So then I start taking images.
Yeah, that's kind of really fascinating in a way. I think yeah, absolutely. And I think you are completely right. I think because it's kind of, I guess I'm trying to put this into words, but I guess there's something kind of quite um I guess fascinating, I suppose, about blind photographers in a way. I think it's such a cool thing to be able to do, but something that I guess would take a lot of people back because it's something that people think is just not possible, or is something that, blind people just aren't able to do. And so I think from even that respect, it would kind of grab people's attention.
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I mean, what for that example I've just give you, uh, that allowed me, as you know, I mean, there is some situations where you feel alone as a blind person because you're not
Mm-hmm.
interacted with. But that somebody actually came. I was in the middle of a square. Somebody actually came up to me and then interacted, taking photos. We had a good interaction. Then that led to a further interaction, and then I went up to the guy who were doing Tai Chi afterwards. I had no issue photographing him from a few feet away, and we had a conversation. I said, "You look amazing." What that the photography has allowed me to do is capture that moment, but also have a lot of important interactions in my life. So it's actually it's grown my life by doing little interactions like that. But you do get the stereotypes of people who don't understand and going, "Hold on, what you're doing with a white stick?" Or "What do you mean you can take pictures?" And I have friends who always kind of can't wait to introduce me to other friends who laugh and they say things like, "Oh, this is Gary. Oh, he's blind." And there's no issue with that. I have no issue with describing me that because it's against
Mm.
friends. It's around friends. So it's
Yeah.
never met. But he goes, "Oh, he's blind." And he goes, "All right, all right." And the first thing they want to say is, "So what can you see?" But then before they do, he'll say, "It's better still than that. He's a photographer." And it's like, then you can see people go, "Yeah, that doesn't add up. That's
Yeah.
hold on. So what you can't say, not greatly." And he's going, "And you do photos," and it's like, "Yeah." And it's like, "Are you any good?" so so you do get that question raised, and you can tell the pauses. You'll be able to read people's pauses, and you can see in them pauses people thinking, "What am I allowed to say? What can I say? Is he
Yeah.
having a laugh?"
That's always, yeah, an interesting one when you meet someone for the first time. I think all the different reactions you kind of get, even like, especially, I guess the whole blind photographer thing, but even just like being blind sometimes, there's a definite divide, I think, between people who are just really chill with it, people who are chill, but they're not entirely sure what to say, people who feel just really kind of uncomfortable. And it's something that I think then you like tune into, like you said, you can tell what's going through people's heads, like, can is that okay?
Exactly, yes. And then you tune into that. You know when there's a pause, you can hear somebody's breath, can't you? You can actually hear people holding the breath or something like
Mm.
that. And you know the pregnant pause that's there, and you think, "Yeah, let's go and spit it out. What do you want to know?"
Yeah, that's the thing. And then it's, I think, I know I tend to do it just kind of being, I mean, I would anyway, but like super friendly in those kind of situations to try and de-escalate it to make people feel more comfortable. So then your head's going like, oh my God, how can I make them feel safer in this situation? Even though it shouldn't be awkward, you want to like, you naturally as a person, I think, want to de-escalate it.
Yeah, yeah. Sometimes I'm also a little bit of a monkey because I do like to challenge people.
Yeah.
I think people need challenging. So yeah, I am a bit of where, and if generally people don't mean anything issue, but where some people might mean it, I'm a strong challenger of you explain to me what you mean by that. But yeah, when you first meet people, it is a case of you can tell that people are torn with, especially when, like I say, the photography is the stereotypical view, and people just think that blind just means seeing nothing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah, which is a whole kind of topic in itself, I suppose. So, could you explain to me then sort of how you take photos with having limited vision?
Yeah, the basically because first of all, we understand the world a lot different to everybody else, don't we?
Mm,
We record the world differently. So we'll record noises, shop doorbells, or footsteps, and we're recording all this. So I'm a lot more aware of the world around me than I would say most sighted people, uh, because I'm using all my senses. So number one, I've got that awareness. Number two, I've got a couple of meters which I can see quite okay in. Not brilliant. No, I don't mean okay. I mean okay for me.
yeah, yeah.
So I've got literally a 2 foot range where I might not trip over something. I still fall down steps, but I might not trip over with a couple of feet range.
Mm,
So I'll use that small range that I have by studying the area. But also, when it comes to the camera, I'll often, majority of the time, I've got the camera shooting in black and white already,
mm,
which allows the high contrast that black and white offers in the back of the camera, allows me to see a lot more of the world. So it allows me to actually identify. I don't actually see it clear, but I'm
mm.
identifying more things in the world because of the contrast that black and white can offer. So that's one thing. And then, like you've got used to understanding the world. So if something's on a table, if the table's clear and you've put a cup down, that one blur will be the cup, won't it?
Mm.
And that's how I register the world. So I think, well, there's a patch of light. And if that patch of light suddenly gets a dark shape in it, we know that's a person. Generally, it's going to be a person. So that's what I'll line up. Looking through the back of the screen, I've already helped it by shooting in black and white. I think that patch of light is interesting, so I want to focus on that. When I see a shape come in that area, I then can just click away and see what I get when I get home, basically.
Right, okay. That's really fascinating and really cool for me to hear about because I don't, I don't really obviously know kind of how that would work for you, but that is really fascinating. I also think there's something quite cool, obviously, A, with black and white being able to help you by giving that contrast, but also having, kind of black and white picture. I think people generally think that's pretty, I think there's something quite cool about that anyway. So I think that's a really kind of cool way of doing things, and it helps you as well. So bonus.
Yeah, well, it helps me. Also, what I found is if anybody actually stopped me and said what you're photographing, or were interested, or actually were a little bit nosy, if I ever showed them the back of the screen and it were colour, they'd just go, all right. Whereas if I
Mm.
showed them and it was black and white, they'd go, oh, cool. Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. And it's really funny because people straight away class that as almost art if you were photographing in black and white. So again, it's one of them methods that I found early on was breaking down a bit of that barrier where people wondered what you were taking in the street. So that helped. And then over time it helped. I noticed it helped me recognize things a little bit better. So, and then it simplifies the scene. So whereas me with my eyesight, I'm also very heavily colorblind, the
Mm.
scene can always be confusing because of the colors. So if we cut them out and just have them as tones and shapes, then the world gets a little bit easier to understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Just kind of breaking things down a little bit. So it's, yeah, like you say, easier for you to understand, easier for things to kind of fit into place like puzzle pieces. But
Yeah.
yeah, I think back to what you were saying earlier, I think, yeah, breaking down barriers is a really important thing. And I think, yeah, it's something different for people when they see it in black and white. It grabs their attention. And I really liked what you said earlier about kind of that lack of interaction that we can sometimes get as blind people.
Yeah.
It can be quite isolating. So anything that I found, anything that you can show people that starts a conversation, that sparks something up, it makes your life so much easier.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah, I hate parties because I never know who's sat where, so I can't have a
Oh,
wander around. So you have to just stand there till somebody comes up, and then they go, "Oh, what you up to?" And I'm saying like, "Yeah," and and it gives you a subject matter, but also it's quite interesting because of the oxymoron of the kind of situation, blind and photographer. Then people kind of key into you. It's not just a polite hello.
mm.
And like, oh, I'll go and say hello anyway. It's more like, oh, wow. Oh, okay, that's cool. So, but yeah, trying to find somebody to talk to at a party because, a little
That's,
thing.
yeah, it's a tricky one. Parties are tricky. Like, I love, like, obviously, parties where I've got loads of my friends. It's brilliant. And, like, my friends will obviously come over and talk to me. But parties are so tricky. I think, A, because, like you said, you don't know who's there. B, because it's loud and voices blend together. And so you're trying to pick out
Yeah,
voices you know. And C, your friends want to come talk to you. Cool. They also probably want to go talk to 20 other people. So they're probably in a completely different room to you.
definitely.
Yeah, so it's like finding people, but yeah, definitely anything that can just spark up a conversation. I remember I had one thing that really stood out to me. A couple months ago, an old cane that I had, I completely bedazzled and decorated with silver glitter tape because I had year 11 prom, and I kept the glitter on. And one of the things that I noticed was like people immediately noticing the cane and being like, and talking to me about it, asking me questions. And I had sort of more kind of, I had longer conversations with some people than I'd had in a while, just because my cane was silver and sparkly.
Exactly. And I think that's it. You're giving somebody an opportunity to come and speak to you. And you're giving them an opening because I think what it is people like ourselves can't give eye contact, and eye contact for a
Mm.
sighted person is that first way of saying to somebody, "I'd like to speak to you." People look
Mm-hmm.
across the room and they both like nod or like make eye contact, and that's an opening that it's okay to speak to that person. Whereas we struggle. So, and again, that's where I think having something with the photography kind of helps a little bit that way.
Yeah, I find like big kind of group conversations really tricky as well. Especially, yeah, because like the eye contact thing, you can't really get someone's attention unless you say their name, but if they're on the other side of the room, that's not going to work. And then big group conversations, like finding a way in, trying to agree with something and not being able to kind of make eye contact with people, attract their attention in that way. And also the fact that we miss out on like visual cues, like
Yes.
hand gestures, facial expressions. We can't. We just can't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, I struggle with that. When to jump in a conversation.
Yeah. It's like I don't know. Like obviously, there's the thing of when people go silent. Yeah, you can probably jump in, but when everyone's just like riffing back and forth, which is great. When do I actually say the thing that I've been wanting to say for 2 minutes?
I know it's hard, isn't it?
Yeah, it's really hard. Anyway, side tangent over. So back to photography. Obviously, we've talked a little bit about how you take your photos, but I was also wondering, I guess, how do you go about editing them? Because I assume that would probably be kind of maybe a slightly longer process for someone like you than maybe someone with sight. So, how do you make that accessible for you?
I use the largest iPad I can get my hands on. I did have an iPad Pro, the large one, but until
Mm.
because I can't see, I sat on it, and that
Oh,
that was no more iPad Pro. I know that were an
yeah.
expensive sit down, I tell you. And this is where people wonder, oh, you can see, and you go, if I could see, would I sit on a thousand whatever
Yeah.
pound
Yeah.
iPad? Uh, and yeah, so anyway, I've got the largest iPad I can get. And I put the images on my computer. I use Lightroom to send them over to Lightroom Mobile, which is online.
Mm.
and then they automatically upload to my iPad, and then I can zoom in. So as you know, like I'll be able to pinch zoom, so I can see the photo through pinching round and seeing if it's correct and what I thought it was. And if it's not, I'll just delete it. And then I can also triple zoom, where I use three fingers to tap on the screen twice and then zoom in to look at the instructions. And I also have a 20 times magnifier that I use. So, and also the good thing about an iPad, I don't like laptops because you can't get close enough. There's a keyboard sat in front of you. It's like a 10-inch block, and I need to get an inch away from the screen. So, being able to use an iPad that I can actually bring right up to my face, zoom in three times, once with a magnifier, and then triple zoom and pinch zoom, and then also use the Apple Pencil, which means I can do a bit more detailed work. It really has assisted in working on my photography and doing the edits.
I wouldn't have even thought of the laptop thing, actually. But now you say that, that actually makes complete sense.
I hate them. I
Um,
can't get near to the screen. People don't realize. They go, oh, it's like it's a good 8, 10 inch, probably 10 inch away from the screen. Well, that means I can't use a laptop.
yeah, I guess so. God, that really didn't occur to me, but now you say it, yeah, of course, because yeah, the keyboard would just completely get in the way.
Exactly.
Yes, I mean, fair enough. I mean, I mean, did it take you a while to kind of refine that process? Was it a bit of a kind of trial and error thing to see what worked, see what didn't? And, or was it kind of just, I wouldn't say instant, but was it quite quick to grasp how you were going to do it?
Uh, no, I spent a while on the computer
Mm.
and working out and trying to edit on a computer, but trying to find the mouse sometimes, you were like,
Mm.
through a magnifier, and it were harder to zoom on the computer because you couldn't really zoom the panels easily. So it weren't as natural on the computer, and it were quite hard. And like I say, trying to find the mouse when you were working very small on a big screen, all that were very tricky. So I think as soon as the option like an iPad came along, it were a lot easier. It were a lot easier. You pick things up quick, don't you? If you notice a little bit more accessibility, you pick it up. It's like the camera, going from a camera that doesn't speak to a camera that does. Because
Hmm.
that accessibility is there, you pick it up quite quick, and you're thinking, "Hold on, I'm loving this. This means I'll be able to find something." So you start testing yourself, and I think as soon as there's one of something that's become a challenge becomes easier, I think you throw yourself into it a little bit more and say, "Oh, this is fantastic, this."
Oh yeah, absolutely, definitely. I think that's a really good point, actually. And I think you pick it up quicker, one, because it's simply easier for you. So you now don't have to do 10 steps to do something that could be done in three and now can be done in three. But also because you want to pick it up. Like it's such a great thing and you are kind of happy about it. You want to learn how to do it. You want to pick it up quickly so that to just make your life easier.
Exactly. And with the voice, the talk back on the camera, for example, the fact is with that, I don't have to second guess myself and think, am I correct?
Mhm.
Because I'm getting instant feedback. So that's removed this. Do I need to look for my magnifier? Yes or no? No, I don't, because I'm not having to do all that. I can literally get more instant feedback, then I'm reassured what I'm doing and that I'm more in control.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's such a brilliant kind of advancement in that respect. And I mean, I guess the kind of like accessibility of like camera technology and that kind of stuff, it's like obviously a key feature for you. And I suppose there must be so many just like personal benefits to having those like advancements when it comes to that kind of accessibility.
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, just allowing you to work faster and easier and not with the worries and stresses that being visually impaired, where you might be the paranoia that you think people are looking at me if I look strange or anything, if you're messing about with stuff too long. So
Mhm.
to be more discreet, even though you've got a talking camera, sometimes makes us confidence grow and makes them anxieties go a little bit, doesn't it?
Oh, I completely agree with that so much, and it's actually something I've not really ever touched on here before, but the like it's kind of a mix of stress and awkwardness you feel. Your Because your mind, or I definitely find your mind like
plays tricks on you, or it might not be. When you feel like, oh, I've taken too long for this, or I'm doing this strangely, like, are people looking at me? Are people judging me? And I think everyone gets that. But when
Yeah.
you're doing things differently, you get it like times 100.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, most definitely. Yeah, people, you seem to stick out like a sore thumb, don't you? And then you think,
Yeah.
and even that feeling in yourself can like make you just second guess yourself.
Yeah. And then you start getting stressed about random things. And the thing is, people might not actually be looking at you or judging you, but your brain tells you they are. Then you get really stressed about a task that you would be able to do without any stress if you weren't thinking about that.
Exactly. So having an accessible world around you kind of removes that and builds you the confidence. So what I'm also using, especially within the world, but also within my photography, is I now use the video AI on my phone
Mm.
to be able to put the three together. So if I'm exploring the world, I use the video AI on my phone, which will describe things for me, and then mixing that with the camera that works for me, and then mixing that with an iPad that works for me. And you put the three together, and that world has become from being quite difficult and challenging, has become a lot more within my sphere of ability.
Oh, that's amazing. You've got like a little golden trio there, definitely. Now, obviously, camera technology is advancing a lot, which is absolutely brilliant and really helping you out. But are there any other areas in your life where you'd like to see accessibility developed more?
Uh, it's hard to guess because I wouldn't have guessed the AI. I think AI will develop something more for us. I might be
Yeah.
tempted to try the glasses, the AI glasses
Oh,
out
I've heard
sometime
about
soon.
them.
I'm not
Yeah.
100% sure, but I might try it. Even just for recording, because I'm trying to record as I go around photographing, I'm trying to record. So I think that'll be helpful as part of my recording the environment around me and my photography. So I think that will be good because there's the Be My Eyes app.
Mm-hmm.
You know, which will support me anyway, that's run by volunteers. So I'm interested in heavily looking into them as something else. I'd really like to, before I drop dead, I'd really like to give a self-drive car a go because I've never driven in my life. It was
Yeah.
really funny because somebody actually on Instagram was talking to me and said I drive 300 miles a day, and I went, and I my response to him was, I've never driven a single mile in my life, and he's like, oh my God, I've never heard that in my life, and I went, yeah, and I said I'm 50 odd and I've never driven a single mile. So yeah, probably the one thing I fancy accessibility live wouldn't be would be one of the self-drive cars, maybe in a few years. But I think
Yeah.
see what AI does first.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think it can be, I think it's going to be a powerful tool. I think we're starting to see already. I think it definitely is. And I think the good thing about it is I think it will enhance accessibility. Yeah, I'm torn about the glasses because I've seen them quite a lot and I think like it's something I may want to give a go and I think it's quite a cool little invention, but like I'm not entirely sure yet. And self-driving cars, same thing, seems really cool. Might give it a go, not entirely sure. It's that thing of like I think for self-driving cars it's that thing of the unknown and then for the glasses I don't really know, really. I'm maybe, but I'm kind of a bit like you on that. Like maybe, maybe not.
Well, I once, one of the only times I got really upset due to my eyesight, and I will share this, but it's quite an emotional one, and very rarely in 35 years, was it took me over 10 minutes to choose uh, a tin of beans in the supermarket because I couldn't find them. They was absolutely exhausted because people don't realize the extra effort and energy you have to go into being disabled to do things, how much energy that uses up inside. I was absolutely exhausted just trying to choose a tin of beans when a lady stepped up in front of me, just chose a tin and walked off. And I went, and that's what life's like for most people. It took her 1 second to decide what she was getting and walked off. And at that moment, I was like upset. And you think, I could have the glasses where maybe I wouldn't ever, even if I just use them once a month or something, and just say to be able to say to the wife, ring through and say, can you see where beans are on this shelf? And she'll say, yeah, third shelf down, just a bit along. There you go.
Mm,
So,
yeah.
so even that might just be worth it. So,
Mm, that's a very, very good point. Yeah, I agree with you there. I think it's sometimes underestimated. Yeah, like you say, how much energy it takes, how like everyday tasks, if you have to, especially when things don't go well, how several everyday tasks in just one normal day can be exhausting for someone with a disability, but like someone who is able-bodied wouldn't even think about it.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Um, but yeah, I suppose in that respect, it would be very useful to have technology like that just to make life easier in that respect.
Yes.
So I suppose we've touched on it briefly, but you know, as a blind photographer, you must receive some kind of stereotypical reactions. Are there any that jump out to you that you might be able to share? Any memories you have of very kind of stereotypical responses?
Yeah, just I mean, it is the one I don't like is where you do get people who either believe it's you if you when they see the images and go and they look at your images that you produce and they say you can see and they
Mm.
actually can't add two and two together and work out that just because I'm blind that I can produce that with while still being able to be visually impaired. And it's I always say that's one of the biggest insults that anybody can do because the amount of issue I've been through in my life through my eyesight to the challenges I've had, and then to dismiss it in such a way where sometimes people say, "Oh, you can see," and that's sometimes the issue which I found earlier in my photography, where you'd say, oh, I don't know if I want to share this as much. And it took me a long while to share that I was a blind photographer. I used to just put photographer and I thought, because I want all the challenges? Do I want people actually saying, you can see, there's no way you can take these photos if you can't see? And then one day I think I just put it and I just thought, go on, I'm going to put it and let's bring it on. And it was like I said earlier on, I am more than happy to challenge. And I always have been, but to invite challenge, and I felt by putting blind photographer was inviting a challenge, which you don't, you and me know, you don't need to invite a challenge, you already get challenged enough.
Yeah, they come to you. Yeah, definitely. I like that though. I think that's quite a kind of cool way of doing it, even though it would have been nerve-wracking, definitely, because yeah, you're inviting, like you say, you're inviting a challenge, you're inviting people to just completely stereotype it and be completely disbelieving. But when challenges come to you anyway, you might as well just, yeah, invite it, kind of let it in because it's going to happen anyway. It just is when you've got a disability.
Yeah, and the more you learn to challenge things, the stronger person you become. You really do.
Mm.
If you can understand the challenges and the best way to deal with the challenges you get in life, I think the stronger person you come, and therefore no longer do challenges actually have as much impact as they used to do in your life. So now my technique for dealing with a challenge that I get where people are rude or ignorant is to say as few words as possible, but to keep that power.
Mm.
Because if I can say as little as possible, but to still emphasize my strength, I keep that power and I keep that power within that whatever's going on. Whereas and getting mad, I don't get mad anymore. I'm a strong person. I've learned to be a strong person, and I know that I'm going to challenge some things. And I always say to myself first, am I going to challenge this? Yes or no? And for example, I'll get things where I've got on the bus and I'll say, are you going to Preston? And people say, and I had a bus driver say to me, well, that's what it says on front of bus, isn't it?
Oh my
And you're
gosh.
like, right, am I going to challenge this? And I think, well, yeah, I will. Go on, I'll challenge this. And I'll say, okay. I said, one blind person's ticket, please. And they just go, oh. And that's my point. I could get mad, but then I might look like an idiot. So instead of getting mad, I just say something like that. And you don't
Mm.
say anymore. You don't need to say anymore
No, you
because
don't.
that's enough.
And I think keeping calm, well, one, keeping calm, and two, being able to say and make a point in a very few amount of words that's just going to hit with people. They're two very good qualities to have, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, not remaining calm makes you look like there's something you've got the issue. And I learned that strong, very soon. So try, whereas the person who remains calm and very few words doesn't look like they've lost control. So I think that's where that comes from.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think it's fair to say you have a very positive kind of outlook on things. Where would you say that sort of stems from?
Uh, Tricky, but I think around my eyesight, I think the positive around that was that I've always been a determined person, and the fact that I think because it went whilst I were 2,000 miles away from home, so my eyesight came on my loss of eyesight came on whilst I was in Gibraltar hitchhiking, and having to be determined enough and rely on yourself and challenge yourself to get back and kind of give self-belief, and having that self-belief that you can get back 2,000 miles on and do that yourself in 1990, before mobile phones, before you could just go to a cash till, uh, gave me a strength throughout, where when I've come up against a challenge, I've always said, if I can do that, I can do this challenge. If I can do that, I can do this challenge. And so I always put back onto that if I could get myself back 2,000 miles, you can generally do anything you put your mind to. And I've stuck with that basically. And I've always pushed myself. Where I get a no as a answer, I've always pushed myself to say, let's say yes, or let's push that and say, why can't I do that? So I've always been more of a challenging person. And then it's suited me quite well.
Yeah, wow. That is, I guess, what a way to lose, what environment to lose your sight in. I think losing it is very, very difficult anyway, but like 2,000 miles away from home, oh my God, that must have been, I suppose, terrifying. Even though you had that resilience, it must have been a very, very scary experience to go through.
Yeah, kind of, but you're already a bit wary because you're a long way of home sleeping rough.
Mm.
So if you add it up, you're a long way from home. You're relying on yourself for money, for work, for looking after yourself, feeding, and I'm only 18. And so really just add one more challenge to the process. And I always say this, if I were just sat at home or if I were doing a job, then it would be more than it actually was. It would be the greatest thing happening at the time. But this is somebody who's miles away from home, has to rely on themselves. There's nobody there to help you out. So actually, it was just one more thing. And so to look at it that way, and the most important thing was that I get home, not my eyesight. I had to get home because of my eyesight, but I had to put the eyesight to one side and say, right, this is important. I need to get home. So my most important job is to get home. So yes, it was confusing, and it raised some anxiety, but I never let it take control, because what would I have been if I let it overpower me and kind of say, oh my goodness, I only had myself to rely on. And knowing that at the very beginning means I've been able to carry that through for the last 35 years.
Fair point. Yeah, I guess so. It's like you can't dwell on it in that situation. You've just got to, your goal, your main thing in your mind is getting home, not losing your sight, I suppose. So you just,
Exactly.
yeah, you can't think about it in a way.
Yeah. So I know it's there. I knew it were there, and I knew there was something really badly wrong. But would it have helped to sit there dwelling on it? No, it's just work is a fact, and say, I'll put that bit off until I get home. If I can just get home, my most important thing at that point was to get home. Once I got home, then I can say, right, let's look at this.
Yeah, definitely. Wow, that's insane. Well, like, of stories of losing your sight, that's quite a rare one, I'd say.
Yeah, possibly. But it wouldn't have helped me, would it? Sat there crying on the street, going, "Oh, my
No.
eyesight, my eyesight." What would that have done? I'd still be sat there now.
Yeah, fair point, well made. Um, well, we talked about it briefly at the very start of the podcast, but you have been working with Sony a lot recently, and you've recently released a collaboration with them called Through the Lens. So can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yes, Sony found me through my Instagram page, which is Swirly Magnolia. It's an anagram of my name. And they found me through that, which, like I say, I advertise myself as a blind photographer. Uh, I connect with the stories within my page about being a blind person, or some of my reels, the things I do are based on me being a blind photographer. So they contacted me through that, or found me through that, and then basically we'd like to work with you. We've got a camera that's accessible, and we'd like to see what we can do, looking at the positive side about breaking down some of the barriers and the issues with the camera, and see what we can create.
That's really cool. I love that. I love that that was the kind of like outlook of it as well, finding the positive side. But that must have been such a cool thing to be a part of.
Yes, yeah. Obviously, that's where you do have a slight, oh my goodness. But again,
Mhm.
my first thing has always been say yes. You can only say yes once in life, but you get a lot of opportunities to say no. So I always try and say yes to every opportunity, because if I want to back out later, and yes, I'm really glad I did, because it's been a fantastic opportunity to do some really professional work, and to make a difference, because through my Instagram, through the work with Sony, a lot of other blind people are connecting and saying, "Oh my God, I love that camera. I've got a camera, and which one is it?" And I even had there's a disabled photographers society, and he contacted me. I said, "Give me a call, it's fine." And he's blind, and he said, "What camera are you on?" He said, "I'm on this camera." He said, "Which ones talk?" And we had a chat just describing it. He said, "Right, that's me, right, I'm going to look at that then now." So
Oh,
it's
that's
really
really good.
opened up some awareness for non-disabled or for sighted people, but it's also, I think, been beneficial to other visually impaired people that are thinking, "Hold on, this is pretty cool. This, I like this." Like I just said earlier, fine, give me something accessible as a visually impaired person, and you're wanting to know more about it, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. I love that it's managed to raise that awareness as well. And for you, just having people kind of reach out again, stemming back to that interaction thing as well.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I think it's just opening up that sphere, which sometimes can be quite closed, but no, this has opened up again to more people being able to raise awareness or raise confidence for people, and has been a really positive experience.
Definitely. It really does sound like it. My next question for you is one that I ask pretty much all my guests, and it's probably one of my favorites to ask. What would you say has been your proudest moment so far? And it can be anything in your life that you've done. It doesn't have to be photography if you don't want it to be.
I don't know. Oh, it's really tricky. I don't know. Think. I don't know. I just look to the next thing. I'm always proud of what I've just done, and I count my achievements. So, like, say, getting back, bringing up children, being a good dad. I think I'm always proud once I say yes to that opportunity and I achieve it. And I say to myself at the end of anything I've done, did I do the best I can? Did I provide good service, good work, and could I have done anything better? So I think it's just I take pride, just one achievement at a time, and say, did I do the very best on that, and could have done anything better? So I think that's just the way I like to see it, because I don't like to get too prideful.
Fair enough. I like that. I really like that approach. There's something really nice about that. Just being proud of, like, yeah, I guess kind of all your achievements that you've done, but one by one, and like actually taking that time to reflect instead of one thing jumping out to you as the thing you've been kind of most proud of.
By doing it that way, I think I'm then ready for the next thing that comes up, and I can say to myself, "Hold on, you did that. It were challenging, and you wondered at first, but at the end of it, by assessing it and saying I'm proud of myself, means you're ready for the next challenge."
Yeah, definitely. I really love that answer actually. So, would you say then you have any sort of goals or aspirations for the future that you'd like to achieve?
Ooh, Ow. It's I don't know how, because I keep like ticking all my little boxes. I think I said to my wife the other day, we were having dinner, and I said, I'd really like it if somebody just recognised me in the street and literally 45 minutes later, somebody come up to me in the street and said, "Is it Swirly Magnolia?" And I went, "Yeah." And I actually thought it were a joke. So I set myself little targets rather than having a massive aspiration. I think I try and set myself little small aspirations. So I'd like to do an exhibition, or I'd like to just. I think it's more showing. I think my aspiration is showing at 18 that I became blind and how blind people were treated in 1990, and then to have a life that is fulfilled. And what I've achieved in my life that's the bit that I aspire to keep going and to keep that level going up at a good rate.
Definitely. Again, I really love that answer as well. Just like, I think it kind of makes things a little bit easier not having one or a couple of big goals that you're trying to chase. Just like taking things step by step, achieving little goals as you go.
Exactly. Well, that things become achievable and things are good to work towards then, aren't they? You know, if you set yourself achievable targets, you've got a really good chance of getting there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's a really brilliant way of looking at it. And I wish you the best of luck in all the little goals that you do have.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been an absolute pleasure. I think I really admire about you your kind of creativity and, of course, your very positive attitude on things. But thank you so much for doing this today. It's been such a pleasure to get to meet you.
Yes, it's been a real pleasure for me also.
Well, thank you very much again, and thank you to my audience for listening, and I will see you all next time.